This is episode number 115 of the Guns Magazine podcast. Hi there, and welcome to the Guns Magazine podcast. I'm your host and the editor of Guns Magazine, Brent Wheat. Thanks for joining us as we talk to the interesting folks who make up the world of shooting, hunting, and the firearms industry. But first, before we get started, let's talk about our sponsor, Luth-AR. Luth-AR is home of the NBA buttstocks, which are affordable, lightweight, fully adjustable buttstocks for your AR-15, fixed, and collapsible rifles. But that's not all. Luth-AR is your one-stop shop for build kits, replacement parts, and custom accessories, including the chubby grip, palm handguards, oversized switch safety, and paddle bolt catch. Luth-AR is proudly made in the USA, and with 4 decades of experience, will continue their mission of innovate to dominate with high-quality products for your ARs. Find out more at luthar.com. Micro 9s are arguably one of the hottest quote-unquote fads in the shooting industry. Things like the Springfield Hellcat, the SIG P365, the Mossberg Mc2sc, the Ruger Max 9 Taurus Gx4, and many others are leading the way on this new type of shooting platform. In today's episode, American Handgunner editor Tom McHale and I discuss our feelings for this category of gun that all the cool kids are carrying. Now, let's chat about Micro 9s. Well, good afternoon, Tom.
Hello.
Well, it looks like you're reporting from your man bunker deep in the swamps of South Carolina.
73 feet below sea level.
Let me say, liar, liar, pants on fire. Your water table is what, 3/4 of an inch below the ground?
Well, when I dig a hole in the backyard to plant something, I do strike water. So
no doubt.
Yeah, we don't have any true bunkers here. So it's actually technically above ground level, but it is surrounded by cinder blocks. So does that count?
Sure. It's better than I got. So, well, that's good because you are surrounded by guns. I'm surrounded by guns. We are going to talk about Micro 9s. That if there's a fad in the firearms industry right now, definitely the Micro 9, quote unquote, is probably it. Every company's got one. I even think Ace Hardware is coming out with a Micro 9. Is there still an Ace Hardware around? I think there is.
Yeah, we have one actually. I go there a lot for weird stuff.
So you didn't know that they're going to come out with a Micro 9 like everybody else, them and, Kroger or whatever.
Ace is the place for Micro 9s. So,
well, it was funny. We're sitting here and I was going to impress Tom. I pulled all the Micro 9s and small little guns out of my safe, and then I was trying to demonstrate them to him, and then he started showing his guns. So I think between the two of us, we've got most of the production of Micro 9s from the industry through 2020 right in front of us.
I counted about a dozen. So is that good between the two of us?
That's good. Yeah. I think those will work. Well, like I said, this is a hot topic. And the funny thing is, I'm sitting here looking at some old guns, some older guns, and some of the literal brand newest of the new guns, and there's not that much difference. So we probably ought to start this conversation on Micro 9s with Tom. Can you even define a Micro 9?
I think I can now, and this is an opportunity to speak to the industry and say it is time for a ban. We need to ban the word subcompact and probably even compact, because it's been the most confusing thing ever, because so people call my SIG P229 a compact. Right. That's not a compact. That's a mid-sized to full-size gun, right? So I, for one, actually embrace the word micro because it's very clear what it is, and the guns that are called micros actually are micros. They're about as small as you can get in a reasonable, rational 9mm package, right? Or 380 in many cases. But so we're going to ban subcompact, right? Strike that word from our vocabulary. I'll be proofreading Guns Magazine from here on out to make sure you don't use it.
Okay, if that's the case, I'm going to go the other direction. Everything, including the 4570, will now be a Micro 9.
Yeah. Well, we'll have full size. Well, mid-size I'm okay with. That's rational. But subcompact, because a subcompact's never a subcompact.
Yeah.
I would call these things we're talking about today a subcompact, but
these are
micros a little more clear.
Little black guns that have very high capacity. Well, large capacity for the size magazines. It started out 7, then it was 8, then it was 9, then it was 10, then it was 11. And where are we going to go from there? And that's kind of, to me, the defining feature, a small black gun with a lot more ammunition capacity than is traditional.
Well, I mean, isn't that the truth? I've got this, and I just saw you have one sitting on your desk too, this Mossberg Mc2sc.
Yep. That's my carry piece right now.
That, you know what? They're going to have to rename that because that SC probably stands for subcompact.
I think
does
it does.
Do you know what it stands for? I'm not sure.
It's subcompact.
We're going to have to ask Mossberg about that.
Because its big brother is the Mc2c compact.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a whole family.
We're going to have some words with those folks. But anyway, I mean, you look at this thing, and with the longer magazine, and you're 14+1.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy.
Now it's not really a pocket gun anymore with the longer magazine, although a cargo pocket carry would certainly work.
Yeah.
But
those of us with larger girth, we can carry that big magazine. But to me, it's not even about extra capacity, because I'm always a huge proponent of you cannot miss fast enough. It's more about getting rounds on target with the first couple, because those are kind of the most important ones. To me, though, it's the comfort of carry. Now that I'm carrying this Mossberg Mc2sc with the optic, that's a whole separate topic, but I'm finally getting to where I feel comfortable enough with that TV screen on top, as we have talked innumerable times. I actually see the red dot quite a bit. And here's the better part, though. When I don't see the red dot, I can get it in there very fast. Used to, I was doing calisthenics and moving my head around and, all kinds of gymnastics to get that dot in. And in real world, you'd be dead 3 times over by then. But now I've got it to where I can actually get the red dot pretty much on target. But that aside, when I put this on first time, I went concealed. It's like, hey, there's not much gun there. I kind of like this, And I've got some smaller guns. My favorite, and I've talked about this before, I have an AMT 380 backup, which I can literally hide in the palm of my hand. And that was my backup piece. I carry it a lot, ankle rig, if I'm, in a suit or something like that, where I don't necessarily want a gun on my waist. But the thing is, these guns, these micro 9s, are really not that much larger than that little bitty AMT backup. And the 9mm, even though all bullets are better nowadays in terms of their quote unquote stopping power, just use that for shorthand. But obviously a 9mm is going to be head and shoulders above the 380. So when you look at the compact size, the good capacity for size, and now they all come with optics, and this Mc2sc has a rail for a light. That's a pretty good fighting package, and I kind of get, I'm making fun of it being a fad, but I kind of get the fad.
You know what? I kind of do too. I've been...
We've agreed on something? Oh my gosh.
Well, let me change my opinion.
Okay.
I'm going to reverse that. No, but actually, I don't know. See, I think in terms of issues now. I was going to say a couple of months ago, but it was really a couple of issues ago, which for handgunners, probably about 4 months ago. I decided that I was going to try appendix carry. It's my experiment. It's all the rage and all the beards do it, and the tacta beards and stuff. And I said, well, there's got to be something to this, because a lot of serious people are shifting that way. And I said, so before I adopt it or poo-poo it, I'm going to try it for months and, go through the pain and gut it out. And I tell you, these little guys in a properly configured appendix carry holster are interesting. Yeah. And like with that Mossberg you were talking about, putting a little light on there is perfectly doable.
Yep.
So there's that.
To me, the funny thing though is I've got my old Shield 9mm setting here. And when the Shield first came out, that was a fad too. All the cool kids had a Shield 9, and it's still a good platform. But I think the interesting thing is I've cleared all these guns and I'm setting them here, and the Shield on this particular, I'm not going to say which brand of micro 9, but it's one of the most popular. The Shield is a whopping 1/8 of an inch longer and looks to me to be about 1/8 of an inch taller. So to me, it's essentially the same size. So we've had micro 9s around for a while, longer than maybe what we've realized.
Well, I've been using another example of that would be the Springfield Armory XDS series.
Right.
I've had an original for, boy, I don't know how long now, and it's a nifty little gun, nice and flat, so you can carry it in an ankle holster if you want, or any other way. And I've recently kind of added the new version to my my repertoire with a little optic on it, so it's kind of neat stuff.
Well, I got to say, I'm sitting here holding my MC2SC, and what got it for me on the red dot is every time I pick it up, I do a presentation with it, and go ahead and mark the calendar. I'm really sold on red dots now. Once I got it through my head. So
you guys gave me so much grief about red dots for so long.
It's just I stick by my point that it's
what
not
as do when the battery runs out.
No, we never did that. The problem that I had, and I still have, and I still think this is an issue that's been glossed over, is for those of us that have shot quite a bit, it's hard to make that transition. They tell you, 4 hours of transition training. I'm here to say horse hockey. It's taken me weeks, but
good. I get to disagree with you again.
Okay.
So we're back to normal. So, for a minute there was agreement, but that was clearly a mistake. So okay. I don't know. You don't transition. You just keep looking for your front sight.
Well, I have to. It didn't work that way for me. I know. And all the instructors.
You do have to open your eyes when you fire. I know it's scary, but you do have to open your eyes.
Joking aside, I had to go to a 2-eye shooting, and I've tried that for years, but I had to make myself with the red dot. So.
Oh, you were a 1-eye shooter?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Back in the day. Are you
cross-eye dominant or no? Or is it just kind of a habit?
Back when Papaw was learning to shoot, you had to close your offhand eye. So my left eye, and literally before I even got into defensive pistols or any of that, I'm shooting the 20, I'm shooting the BB gun, and it's left eye goes shut. And I've known that that's not the best way to do it, but that's a hard habit to break. But I did what I told myself not to do. Is we're getting off on that red dot tangent, but gosh, this red dot and this little tiny pistol with nice capacity, it's just a good gunfighting package. It really is.
It is. I tell you, I have a little Taurus Gx4,
and I like that a lot.
And it has a TV with a green dot on it, which is pretty darn incredible in that package. Does yours have a green dot, or
Mine
red?
Doesn't have an optic on it. That's the only reason I'm not carrying it.
Well, you know what?
Friends at Taurus.
That transition thing is getting you maybe try out a green dot on the little gun. Yeah,
because I got to say, the Taurus is the least expensive of the class, as far as I know. But yet, I think it's got one of the best triggers, which I know we catch a lot of grief here because Taurus, right? Taurus, quote unquote. There's been issues in the past, but I'm telling you, I've been to the plant. I think you've been to the plant too, haven't you, Tom? And Taurus is new. It's a whole new company, and I've been pretty impressed with some of their products over the last couple of years. And I'm telling you, this GX4, if mine had an optic on it, I'd be carrying it alongside my MC2SC.
Yeah, it's mine does have an optic, so I kind of like it. It's actually the neat thing about that little GX4 is it's a hair smaller than. I don't have a sample of all of them because, as you said, there's a million models out there now, but it's the smallest of the bunch that I have here. The barrel's a little bit shorter. It's I would say even less than snubby size.
Yeah.
Different proportion a little bit, but boy, this would be just a nifty little ankle package too.
Yeah,
if you wanted that for a backup or office carry or something where you're sitting down a lot or driving a lot.
Yep. And that's something I've not seen people talk about, but I try to carry 2 guns if I'm in a situation where I think it's a reasonable, risk of there may be something unpleasant happening. And with the Micro 9s, boy, that makes it so much easier. So much easier, whether it's your primary and you got another as a backup, or, bigger gun as a primary and this is a backup, but it's a pretty good overall concept.
Yeah. Well, what you need to do is just skip the spare magazine, just carry another Micro 9.
Yeah.
one on each side, right?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. cavalry style.
New York reload.
It's always the fastest reload, second gun.
There you go.
So, well, we've said there's a million of them, and there's not quite, but let's run through some of the more popular ones. And, leave in the show notes, folks, leave comments and tell us your thoughts on these guns. But really, the one that I think really started this was the whole SIG P365, and that was really popular. And then the Springfield Hellcat came along, and they upped the ante, so to speak. So I think that's when the arms race and the Micro 9s kind of started.
What did they do? I'm trying to remember. They added one, as I recall. Yeah. Capacity, right? Did have one more, and it's kind of base flat magazine configuration, and did the price point a little more aggressive on the price point.
One up.
Yeah, that started the war. Now the question now is who doesn't do this?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Ruger's got their Max 9. We've talked about this Mossberg Mc2sc. We both like the Taurus Gx4. What are we missing here? I mean, there's a whole big bunch.
Yeah, there are. Of course, there's some earlier iterations, in the Springfield lineup. With the XDS family, they're single stack versions, but they're right in that size profile. I know of at least one, maybe two companies that are announcing I believe they're going to make the SHOT Show announcement for their entry into the Micro 9 world. So, yeah. The
let's see, FN's got the 509. That's a pretty small one. Of course, there is the Glock 26, the G word. It's been out for a while. I think it was mid 90s. Nobody ever considers it as a Micro 9, but it really is. Trying to run down the list.
Like that 43X little, it's a single stack again, but you're still at 10 rounds, and it's a nifty little package. Savage just came out with a kind of pocket 9.
Trying to find
Savage.
It here.
Savage. It's been a while since we've seen a Savage pistol.
The Stance, STANCE, the Stance EDC, and it's their first complete family of handguns. Because Savage, I've been to the Savage plant. That was pretty interesting. They used to make pistols back in the day, quote unquote, in World War II, following World War II, and they haven't done it for a long, long time. So we knew that they were coming out with something handgunny, and the fact that they chose a micro compact 9mm, not a big surprise there.
Tells you where the dollars are going.
Yep.
It's what everybody's buying.
All the cool kids, man. But again, I'm just making fun of a fad, because fads generally, things become a fad because of good reason, usually, but then they get co-opted and over the top, and then people go on to find the next cool fad. But I gotta say, the more I'm messing around with these guns, again, I think it is the best. Everything's a compromise. This is one of the best compromises of all the different factors involved. Would you agree or disagree?
I would. And this kind of opens up a whole new area of discussion, I think. They're a little more difficult for the user to shoot accurately just because they're small. And, you've got lightweight, you still have trigger weight to deal with without moving the gun, and a shorter sight radius. But, when you stick one in a vise or a good sandbag setup, the accuracy is all you need. So it's really up to you as to whether you can do as much, quote unquote, with one of these Micro 9s as a larger pistol. Yeah. Mechanically, they will shoot.
Yep. Well, I think that's one of the funny things is, I can't remember if I said this earlier or not, but I didn't say this earlier because I was thinking, do I want to say this or not? But to our friends in the firearms industry, I'm sorry, but they all look about the same. I've got them sitting here. They're a little different ergonomics, maybe a little different design features, but they're, as a class, they're very, very similar. So I guess my point is, if you stick with a major manufacturer, we didn't throw Kimber in there. They've got a Micro 9 too. Stick with a major and you're going to be fine. I can't say that I've fired any of them right now at this point that are dogs. Like I said, I'm real happy with the Taurus trigger. Some of the others, they're striker fired 9s, tiny little ones. So some of the triggers are decent, some are less decent, but overall, there's not a single one of these I'd be afraid to put on my hip and walk down the street.
Well, and I tell you, I know we're talking about the guns more than the red dots, but I think the point I would leave people with is a red dot can really make these shine, and bring them to the more into the performance class of a larger gun, because you completely eliminate any disadvantage of a short sight radius. As long as you can manage the trigger, always the big caveat, you can hit something at surprising distance with these guys, and the red dot kind of takes away the aiming challenges of a small sight radius. So
I think that is probably the most critical point here, that that is a big disadvantage, and the red dot solves the problem, especially if for those of us with aging eyes, it does everything. It's been billed plus more. So that's why
you and me both, man. the
it is
sights
amazing.
Are blurry.
Yeah. Now, for all this love we've thrown at them, though, there are contraindications. And I would say if you're literally a novice shooter and you're listening to us trying to get a sense of, do I need to buy one of these? I would say no. I would go a little bit bigger gun. Having said that, I suppose if you're going to start out with an optic right off the bat, I guess it's okay. But I think they're a little bit smaller. They're a little more challenging to shoot accurately, especially with iron sights. So I don't think you're going to go wrong with one, but I think your learning curve might be a little better, especially if you're going to be taking professional classes. I would say get a more quote unquote compact size as opposed to one of the smallest. And then once you feel like you've really reached the next level, so to speak, then maybe look at trading. Because right now you can trade guns with not too many problems.
Yeah, I got to agree with you again. This is killing me.
I know.
But,
you sure the air in your bunker's okay?
You're right. You're right, though, because a physically larger gun is so much easier to shoot well. And people make the argument with these micro 9s like, oh, well, I'm going to be carrying it 99.9% of the time, right, and I may never use it. Fine, I get the apparent logic in that statement. But on the other hand, if you have to use it, you better darn well be able to hit what you're aiming at real fast under stress.
Exactly.
And if you can't do that, all of the convenience of carrying a tiny gun around has just gone out the window.
Yeah.
Means nothing. So got to be able to shoot it.
Well, exactly. And that kind of leads into, I've already offered my opinion on capacity, and I kind of laugh because it's an arms race. It definitely is. But again, to me, the first 2 or 3 bullets are the most important. But what's your thoughts on capacity? And do you think we've reached a point where diminishing returns, and if somebody hits the 13 round mark, we'll probably stop there?
I may have a different viewpoint on capacity. Capacity gives me comfort, and you never know what your self-defense incident looks like. Right. It may be the mugging, the one-on-one encounter from 3 feet away per FBI average crime statistics. Mm-hmm. It may be a guy getting out of his car with a shotgun or a rifle at the local big box store.
Yeah.
It might be 3 guys in a convenience store. So I'm always going to favor capacity, because I don't know of a single person who's ever complained about having ammo left over after they saved their own life. Right. Yeah. So I have no problem with that, and I'll gladly carry the extra weight, but you're right. The majority of incidents are over either with a, simple brandishing of a firearm. I shouldn't use that word. That's a bad legal term.
Yeah.
So strike that. But most incidents end that way, without a shot being fired. Right.
Yep.
And the ones that do involve shots being fired, we're talking a handful. Not counting law enforcement incidents and things like that. So, but things are getting weirder and weirder. We got riots, we got mobs, we got smash and grabs with 60 people involved. We got all kinds of stuff going on. That's not a one-on-one mugging scenario. Yeah. So capacity gives me comfort.
Well, I think an important side note on that, though, is I think the one thing that everybody knows you should do and you don't is carry a spare magazine. Everybody knows, yes, oh yes. And when I go to the range, when I train, of course, I've got multiple magazines and they're carried in a nice belt clip and blah, blah, blah. And honestly, truly, seriously, how many folks do you know that actually carry that reload? Frankly, not that many. And the thing is, what's probably the number one problem aside from missing? Some kind of malfunction, right? And if you what are most malfunctions induced by?
The vast majority, you mean?
Yeah.
The magazine.
Exactly. So if you got that spare magazine in your pocket, you may be fumbling around for it.
I passed your exam.
You passed.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Well, that was kind of a softball question because I knew you knew the answer to it. But yeah, folks don't look at it that way. They look at, I'm carrying a spare magazine so I can shoot 74 rounds at, the tangos when they're taking over the mall. And that's not it at all to me. It's nice to have that. And I agree with you. Capacity is a nice thing. But to me, the spare magazine is a safety blanket. So if the gun doesn't run and you've got to do something, it's a lot easier to switch out the magazine and find that it works than be trying to troubleshoot as bullets are flying your direction. Well,
it's what will kind of turn the light bulbs on is some, let's say, aggressive training scenarios, live fire simulations, anything, done by a competent instructor in the right conditions, because it is stunning and shocking how quickly things can go south with simple operations of a handgun, when you got everything going on around you. So I've dropped magazines, I've jammed my own gun, I've done all sorts of silly things in training scenarios, in the heat of the moment. So spare's real nice to have.
Exactly. Well, to expound on that is we talk a lot about, I'm a retired cop and Roy, our former boss, retired cop. The nice thing about law enforcement is you get a chance to make a lot of mistakes in real world and you learn that nothing is cut and dried. And that's what always slays me when you see certain maybe YouTube stars, influencers. Here's how it's going to go down and you do this. Well, okay, in a perfect world, but I've seen, a lot of incidents that didn't go down on a sunny 72-degree square range, no rain, no snow, all that kind of stuff. So again, that's kind of just my plug for weird stuff happens in the middle of a crisis. And the more you have pushed yourself, the better it's going to be. But that's a training issue.
But you bring up a great point. And I think representing the non-law enforcement side of things, I would tell people out there that don't have that background, spend a few dollars and some time and go do some simunitions training. I guarantee you lots of light bulbs will go off. You'll love it. It is great fun. You'll come home sore. I've still got what feels like a broken finger from an incident 6 months ago, but kind of funny. But seriously, it's not life and death, but it sure feels like it. Which is about as close as you can get in training. So really good stuff.
Well, getting back to the Micro 9s, we're at the end of our allotted time here. So do we dare pick one or two?
Oh,
having said that, I've not shot all of them. I've handled many of them. I've put rounds downrange with many of them, but I've only got a couple that I've got what I would call quite a bit of experience. And really, honestly, the only one that I've put hundreds of rounds through and carried on the street, including literally today, I had to go to the big city and I actually, being heads up, I saw this guy with a skateboard at the mall we were at. My darling wife had to run inside and I sat out in my secluded location away from anybody so nobody could sneak up on me. And here comes a gent with a skateboard and a red mohawk. And he was just lounging through the parking lot. And this was 10 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, something is wrong with this picture. Then he kind of just goes over and hangs out and smokes a cigarette. I thought, it's 10 o'clock in the morning where I'm at. It's really cold, single digits. And he's hanging out smoking a cigarette with his backpack and skateboard. To me, that screamed looking for a victim. So I had my MC2SC with my red dot. And I thought, okay, he had a nice wool check jacket on, and I thought that'll look good with that red dot right on it if necessary. So he didn't do anything silly while I was watching, but that's a good example of I had the gun. I was practicing what I preach, that I was, aware and ready to go. And I had worked through what the red dot's going to look like on his jacket. But anyway, I got off on a side story there. I would say definitely the Gx4 has the nicest trigger I've shot. And it's the least expensive.
And smallest.
So that's a big thing. I'm a huge fan of the MC2sc. So far, it has not failed me. And like I said, that's based on hundreds of rounds. So I guess those are my two picks, but your thoughts?
Yeah. It's funny. I don't think I could come up with one because they're all a little different, but I do carry three different ones. The one I would add to the two you mentioned are that XDS, and it's kind of borderline as what we've defined as a micro 9 because it's a single stack. But you're still looking at solid capacity. But what I like about them, both the old and the new, is they're flat. Yeah. That single stack just gives you a really thin profile, so it's super easy for appendix carry, and that grip safety that some people love and some people hate is a very comforting thing if you're carrying up front. I really like having that extra layer. So, which is why I don't carry up front, but that's a whole different story. We'll have to have an argument about that one day, pros and cons. So. Yeah. Well, I'm not binary or dogmatic, as you've said. A lot of guys do it. All the cool kids do it. I will freely admit that, but I just can't imagine putting a bullet down the front of yourself. That would just be a bad day. But no, I'm sitting here playing the, you said flat, the Ruger Max 9. It's very nice and flat in profile. So I think that would be a good one too. I don't have a lot of experience yet with the Max 9. So, but I think overall, and of course we cannot forget to mention our friends at Springfield, the Hellcat that kind of started this whole arms race, if not, necessarily the category, but once they upped their round count, everybody had to pay attention. But the Hellcat, it's a nice gun. Yeah, exactly. So our friends over there, don't want to slight them at all. But I think the big thing here overall, again, I think you stay with the majors. All these guns work. And, 20 years ago, that might not have been the case. But machining and industrial processes and even engineering has advanced to the point all these guns work. They're a nice size. Most of them, if they don't come with optics now, are, you can get an optic ready model. I hate to jump on the bandwagon, Tom, but it's a pretty cool setup. There you go. You're coming around. I hate it when we agree. It goes against the grain. Now, are you okay with scopes on rifles now? Or are you still fighting that trend? Well, they used them in 1865, so I guess I'll grudgingly say scopes are fine. You make me sound like a troglodyte. Well, okay, never mind. That's a big word. Hey, I'm a writer. Don't try this at home. So, well, even though it's cold here, I think I'm going to have to load up some magazines and head out to the range and turn some brass into noise, because I'm just all hot and frothy now about that red dot. I'm ready to carry it and be a gunslinger from hell. So nice. Well, Tom, thank you very much. I failed to mention you are the editor of American Handgunner and my cohort here. So folks, after they read Guns Magazine, subscribe to Guns Magazine, love on Guns Magazine, check out gunsmagazine.com. They can check out American Handgunner too. What a ringing endorsement that was. Wow. I'm just humbled. Well, I could have been, it could have been worse, Tom. It could have been worse. So, no, thanks for talking about this. And it's always fun getting together with you. And we can always agree to disagree most of the time. Yeah, there you go. All right. As I mentioned, I'm quickly becoming a convert of the Micro 9, and I don't think I'm the only one. And with that, we hope you're enjoying the Guns Magazine podcast. Guns Magazine was first on the newsstand, and today we're bringing you the most interesting chats in the gun world. If you got questions or comments about the show, please email me. That's editor@gunsmagazine.com. Make sure you subscribe to us on your favorite podcast directory, YouTube, and of course at gunsmagazine.com. And while you're online, please don't forget to check out our great sister publications, Tom's own American Handgunner magazine at americanhandgunner.com, americancop.com, and of course our numerous special editions available on our websites.
Most of all, while you're online, I'd also appreciate it if you'd share a favorite episode or some kind words on your own social media. Well, that's it for this episode of the Guns Magazine podcast. For the entire staff at FMG Publications, I'm Guns Magazine editor Brent Wheat. Now get out there and get shooting.